Hi, this is going to be another video exploring the cat and cow movement. So I have got another video on my channel of cat and cow variations. So we're going to do a few different explorations, a few different versions of cat and cow. Because cat and cow is essentially just looking into the extension and flexion of the spine. There's loads of different ways that you can bring it into your movement practice. You don't just have to be on all fours doing it in the kind of traditional way. It's also a really good general warm-up for your body, for your spine. So if you're looking for something to just start the day with, or even something to do before a workout or a longer yoga practice, then this is a nice one to do. So this is going to be mostly floor-based, and then I'm going to do another video where we'll be exploring the extension and flexion in lunge and standing. Okay, so we're going to start in a comfortable seated position. I'm going to be in cross-legged, and I'm just facing this way so that you can see my spine. Feel free to face the screen. So taking cross-legged if that's comfortable for you. If not, you can have the soles of your feet on the floor and your knees bent, but please make sure you have your feet about hip distance apart so they're not super close together. Okay. And then to begin with, just close your eyes, take a few deeper breaths, just so that we, begin from a place where we're already feeling into the body and aware of bodily sensations, so that as we continue with the practice, we're not going to hurt ourselves by pushing too far or doing something that doesn't feel good. So just a couple more deeper breaths. And then we'll begin by resting the hands onto the knees, and then we're going to draw the chest upwards towards the ceiling as if there was a long thread pulling the chest forwards and up, arching the back and sticking the tailbone out slightly, and I'm pulling very gently on my knees here with my hands. And then we're going to reverse that, so imagining that there was a magnet at the back of your navel and connected to the wall behind you. So you're going to round your back. I'm still pulling gently on my knees. My chin goes to my chest and my tailbone is now tucking under, rounding. And then we're going to continue between those two movements. So lifting the chest, arching the back slightly, letting the shoulder blades move down the back, and then drawing the navel towards the spine, rounding the back, chin towards the chest. So repeating again, we've got this cow action with the chest moving forwards. The back is arching, the shoulder blades are drawing down the back, and then as we pull the navel towards the spine, rounding the back, elongating through the back body, we've got this cat shape. And so if you've got your feet out in front of you, it might look something more like this, and you might feel free to open the knees slightly as you bring your chest forwards, and then bring them closer together as you round and arch the spine. So continue in your own time. Just do 2 or 3 more rounds like this, finding those two actions. And then if you feel comfortable with that movement of the spine now, you could start to add the arms. So maybe bringing the arms up into cactus shape with the elbows bent as you arch the spine. And then bringing the arms forwards towards one another as you round. Maybe you can go as far as crossing your arms in front of your chest, placing the hands on the shoulders, and then expanding out again, lifting the chest, lifting the arms, tailbone sticking out, and then rounding again, maybe giving yourself a hug with the arms crossed in front. So again, play around with that action now, with the arms included. And as you continue to do this, it might be possible for you to feel that it becomes almost like a waving action rather than moving between two fixed positions of the spine. You start to notice all of the areas that you journey through on the way. We can even get fancy and start to add in the legs now maybe. So reaching the legs out as you open the chest, open the arms, and then drawing the legs back in towards you, hugging them as you round. So like I said, there's so many different ways to explore this expansion, contraction, or extension, flexion action in the spine. So you can really get a bit creative here and start adding in your own little flourishes, maybe just doing one leg at a time. Maybe you've got both legs off the ground. So just feel into what feels comfortable for you. And then when you're ready, start to slow it down, making the actions a little bit smaller now, maybe just coming back to where you began. And then gradually allow your spine to arrive back into the neutral position, just letting your head, neck, shoulders all arrive in space where they want to be. Not trying to fix them into an idea of straight, but just they know where to be. And take some breaths here. And just notice any changes that you can feel maybe in the back line of your body, shoulders, neck, lower, middle or upper back. And then opening your eyes, we'll just take a little twist to counteract that slightly. So bringing your right hand onto your left knee and the left hand behind you. And then taking some circles with the rib cage. So we're not just kind of fixing ourselves into a twist just yet. It's quite nice to take the circling action of the spine and the rib cage in contrast to the extension flexion. Changing direction if you haven't already with those circles. And then when you're ready, just let the head, the neck land in the twist, rolling the left ear towards the left shoulder and the right ear over towards the right shoulder, just to open up and feel into the neck. And then pause with the head gazing towards the left. And then we'll do that on the other side as well. So left hand comes to the right knee this time, right hand is on the ground behind you. And again, starting with that circling of the rib cage. Almost imagining that you had like a hula hoop around your rib cage and you were trying to keep it going. Going in both directions. And it might just be a very, very small action, and that's okay as well. And then when you're ready, bringing the chin to the chest, rolling one ear over to the shoulder at a time, taking your head in semicircles, letting the neck and the jaw get a little bit freer before you then pause, gazing towards the right shoulder. And taking some deep breaths across the whole length of your spine. Turn to face forwards again. Just feel into everything going on back there now. And then when you're ready, we're going to come over onto all fours. So this is the obviously traditional posture to take cat and cow in. We're going to play around with it a little bit here. So bringing your shoulders roughly over wrists and hips roughly over the knees. Make sure your fingers are spread nice and wide on the mat because your hands are your foundation here. Roughly shoulder distance apart. And let's just start with a traditional cat and cow a few times. So starting from a neutral spine, that means not too collapsed nor too rounded. Find somewhere in the middle. And then we'll begin by lifting the chest, lifting the sit bones, gazing forwards. the belly dips towards the floor, just like when we were doing it seated. Slight bend in your elbows and dragging the hands slightly backwards so that you can feel the shoulder blades move down the back. And then reversing, push away, down and away through your hands. Navel comes towards the spine and the back of the neck gets really long. Let's repeat that 2 more times, just lifting the chest, lifting the sit bones in cow, and then rounding, gazing towards the knees or the navel in cat. Slight bend in your elbows as you take this last round. Next time you come into cat pose, pause here with the back rounded. And now start to draw up onto your fingertips. So as if you were thinking that you're pulling the ground into the center of your hand. So your fingertips are drawing in towards the center of the hand. Feel that. And then start to pull your fingers back, flat down onto the ground. Let the palm land. Then almost like you're dragging your chest through your arms, tilting the sit bones and coming into cow pose. So just a different way of coming into it makes us explore the connection to the hands a little bit more. So let's do that a few more times. Start to draw your fingertips up in towards the center of your hand, coming up onto fingertips, rounding the spine, gently pressing through your feet and shins. And then lowering down onto the fingers and the palms of the hands. Once the palms are connected, start to draw the chest through with bent arms. The tailbone rises, and we're in cow pose again. It's easy to get confused. I'm going to pause here and just take a little side-to-side look with my head in cow. And then lifting back up onto fingertips, rounding into cat. And then let's go ahead and tuck our feet, so tuck your toes, and then reach your hands a little bit further forwards in front of you on the palms now, pushing hips back towards the heels. So here we're in our puppy pose. So you can see my hips are going back towards my heels, but they're not resting on them, like in child's pose. And we're going to take a few little baby waves. So press down into your feet, start to round your spine up towards the ceiling, coming through a really long cat pose. Your chest comes through your arms as you lower the pelvis and then lifting the chest in this variation of upward facing dog. And of course you can have the toes untucked here if you prefer. We'll do that a couple more times. Press down and away, send your hips back. And then pressing into your feet first, that will start the activation to move your hips up, rounding, bringing the chest through, the hips lower, chest lifts, and that slight drag back through the hands again. Of course, you can pick up the knees here if you want to. Put them down again before we press back to puppy pose. One more time, and this time we're going to come all the way forwards, waving the body forwards. Chest comes through the arms, and then we'll lower all the way onto the belly. So coming down, just rest your forehead onto your hands for a moment. Let everything get a bit soft. And then we're going to play around with a cobra a couple of times. So untuck your toes if they're tucked and feel that you're pressing the tops of your feet down lightly into the mat. That should engage your lower body, the knees, the legs and the glutes. And then moving your hands so that they're wider than shoulder distance. So they might be off the mat a little bit. Bringing the forehead back down to the ground. Start to drag the hands backwards. They won't move, but as if you were trying to drag the ground underneath you. And from there, lift the chest. Just going as high as feels comfortable. Notice where your shoulder blades are on the back. And then lower down. We'll repeat that 2 more times. So begin by feeling that drag back through the palms of your hands. Shoulder blades move down the back and then lift the chest. Lift the gaze. Maybe you explore going a tiny bit higher and then come back down. Sticking with this if this feels enough, or you could try the variation coming onto your fingertips again, spiking your elbows up towards the ceiling and then peeling the chest and the head off the ground. If you can, maybe just stay here for a couple of extra breaths, gazing over one shoulder and then the other, and then lowering all the way down. Move your hands back towards your ribs, push yourself back, and come into a child's pose for a moment. So here now we find that nice flexion in the spine. So in cobra we get extension without the kind of counterbalance of flexion. So just take a few deep breaths into the back line of your body here in child's pose. And then when you're ready, we're going to come into one last expression of our cat and cow. And we're going to do this from seated Dandasana position with the legs out long in front of us. So set yourself up. I'd recommend again having your legs hip distance apart rather than completely together. It'll vary depending on your hip flexors and the width of your pelvis, but this works for me. So experiment with a few different things. Okay, so quite often when we come into a forward fold from this shape, it can sometimes be about just reaching forwards and trying to hold on to something and kind of pulling ourselves forwards. I really don't like that. I don't feel like it's particularly good for my hamstrings. I don't feel like it's particularly good for my lower back. It's just not a nice feeling for me. So we're going to do it with a bit of movement. So the first action is lifting the arms and bending the knees. My heels are still connected to the ground with the toes facing up towards the ceiling. And I've got that the cow shape with my spine. My chest lifted, my back arched slightly. And then as I fold forwards with my chest, I'm going to let my legs start to lengthen out, just as much as they'll go. Maybe they come flat to the ground, maybe not. Arms reaching towards the toes, but we don't grab hold of them. We're going to start to round through the back, bend the knees, and roll the spine and the arms all the way back up. And then we'll continue that movement. So lifting the chest, lifting the arms, starting to fold forward with the chest, arms come down, legs straighten as much as feels comfortable. And then sliding the hands back on the floor, rolling up through the vertebra, bending the knees and lifting up. And then it becomes this big wheel-like movement. And as you take this movement, as you explore it, try to notice the action of the pelvis. So as we come up into this open, expansive position, the tailbone is sticking out, the pelvis is tilted forwards. And then as we roll down and come into our forward fold, the pelvis tilts back. And we get this rounded shape with the back of the body. So just notice that as you take a few more cycles. Of course, if you like, you can synchronize your breath with this movement, breathing in as you reach up and breathing out as you bring everything forwards and down. But it's really up to you, and it's more important that you feel you're breathing in a steady and relaxed way than when and where you're inhaling or exhaling. Next time you're folding forwards, let's pause. Your knees can be bent as much as they need to be, with the heels connected. Hands can come onto the floor either side of your legs, and then we'll take a rocking action through the spine, as if we were snaking the spine from left to right. You might be able to feel this in that portion of the back between the upper part of the pelvis and the lower part of the rib cage. You can also feel it a bit there in between the shoulder blades, around the upper middle back. Once you're done with that, we'll finish in whatever comfortable seated pose you began in. So just re-arrive in a place where you can sit for a couple of moments. Notice your breath. Notice how everything feels in the back and the front line of the body now. And I hope that things feel a little bit freer, maybe a little bit more energized. And I hope most of all that you enjoyed that little short sequence. Thank you so much for coming.